So I guess my biggest thing about the movie is that I liked it when it was very metaphorical and very open to interpretation and not so literal. Every time it tried to tell a more concrete story with the whole, oh, we have to get back to Command Central, it didn't work as much for me. And I guess because the message of the movie is it's okay to be sad, which is a very simple message, but in true Pixar form, they deliver it spectacularly. Joy really got on my nerves. I wanted to, I hated her. Like, I really, really hated her in her treatment of Sadness, because she's like, oh, Sadness, don't touch the control panel. Don't touch the memories. Don't touch it. Just sit in this corner and don't do anything, because we have to be happy all the time and you can never be sad because sad is bad. And then there's one point where when they're going through long-term memory, they run into Riley's childhood imaginary friend, Bing Bong, which I love the design for this guy. He's like an elephant who can make dolphin noises, but his body is made of cotton candy. It's just very, very imaginative. And along the way, like his wagon gets pushed into the memory gulch, I think, or the trench where forgotten memories go to get discarded. And he gets very sad. He's like, oh, Riley and I used to play in that wagon all the time. I was going to take her all the way to the moon. It was powered by friendship and singing, and he just gets really sad about the fact that it's gone. And Joy tries to cheer him up by saying, oh, we can fix it. Don't worry. We got to get back up and get moving and let's go. And of course that doesn't work. So Sadness sits down next to him, and Joy's like, don't talk to him. You're just going to make it worse. But Sadness puts her arm on Bing Bong's, her hand on Bing Bong's arm and says, oh, I'm sorry that you lost something that was important to you. I've lost things that were important to me too. I'm sure that's really hard. And he's like, yeah, it is really hard. That was something that was really important to me. So he cries about it for a little bit, and then he's like, okay, thank you. I'm better now. Come on, let's go. And Joy is just flabbergasted. She's like, how did you do that? And she can't understand. And Sadness says, well, he was sad, so I just listened to his problems. And it takes Joy a long time to come around to realizing that sadness is important and it is okay to be sad. So this is a great film for children. And I hate saying that, because one of the things I fight against is animation is not just for kids, and adults can enjoy animation, and there are some anime especially that you would never show children, and there are some things like Little Bill or Blue's Clues that are for kids. What Pixar and Disney and DreamWorks do are they make family films that are, kids can enjoy them, but adults can enjoy them just as much and even get something out of it that maybe kids wouldn't get. Inside Out is a movie for children. It delivers a very simple message about growing up in a and how it's okay to embrace negative emotions, and everything doesn't have to be perfect all the time. It introduces kids to some sad truths about life in a very simple way, in a way that's very fun and colorful for them to watch. So yeah, it's a fantastic message for kids. One of my favorite, probably my favorite scene by far, without spoiling anything, was at the very end. Riley and her parents have an emotional moment where this whole "it's okay to be sad" message comes to fruition, and it got to me. It really did get to me. And I think coming from me, not that I ever had a problem expressing sadness, but I guess for me it was more I always had a problem expressing anger. and I've talked a little bit about my OCD in past videos, not to get too much into it, but like basically I felt like it was wrong for me to feel anger towards other people because anger leads to hurting others, and so I did my best to suppress any kind of, anger and negative emotion, and you can't do that. You just can't. Anger is just something that everyone feels, and it's important to tell kids that it's okay to express sadness and anger and negative emotions as long as you do it in a healthy way. There's lashing out at other people, and there's bottling things up, and there's got to be a kind of middle ground where you can express yourself as long as you don't hurt other people. And I felt like this movie did take steps toward showing that. And the way that Riley says, I know you want me to be happy all the time, but I can't be happy all the time. I'm sad, and I need you to be okay with that. So again, like I was saying, very, very simple message delivered, true to Pixar's form in a very relatable and special way. And I, not to get too much into gender, but again, I think it was nice that message was delivered through the mouth of a little girl. Because, girls are expected to behave a certain way. And I know boys are expected to behave a certain way too, but girls are expected to be silent and to be okay with everything all the time. They're expected to be less of a burden. Like boys, they're expected not to show any emotion at all and be tough and manly, and that's bull, but it's also more acceptable for a boy to act out or, be a troublemaker or showcase those kind of negative emotions. Girls are kind of expected to be good all the time, and of course we're saying more all the time, but women characters are allowed to be strong, not be damsels, but there's also this kind of negative stereotype of okay, now women have to be strong for the stupid men. And this was a big problem that I had with Frozen. That was oh, women, you don't need men because men are stupid and they either are assholes or they can't take care of themselves all the time, which is it's just as damaging to a young girl to hear this kind of message. And the point is not, you shouldn't have to make your men characters whiny babies in order to make your female characters strong. The point is to make all characters strong by making all of your characters human and balanced and emotional. And I just finished watching Legend of Korra, and that's a fantastic example of a show that allows all of its characters to be strong by being human and not confined to gender roles. So maybe it's just because I can't divorce my own personal experiences from this kind of message, but yeah, I love the whole, little girl discovers that it's okay to be sad. A simple message delivered with that Pixar charm. Speaking briefly about the animation, it wasn't one of Pixar's best. It wasn't bad. It was good animation and it looks good. But nothing about the visuals was especially mind-blowing, or memorable. I guess the one thing I really loved about the visuals was, first of all, the design of the emotions was really fun. Anger being this little square that's boxed in his emotions, and fear being this kind of wispy character that gets knocked down easily, and sadness being very round and kind of, rolls all over the place. And they did something really cool with the emotions where they look fuzzy, and like there's like a peach fuzz kind of sheen to all of the characters, especially in Joy, where I don't know what they did, but the visual effects they had her, like, it was kind of like particle manipulation on her skin, so it always looks wavy and alive and things float. Like, it was really cool and really beautiful to watch. I couldn't figure out why she glowed the whole time, and she was the only emotion that did that. I thought maybe because she was the predominant emotion in Riley's brain. But when we go into other people's brains, the predominant emotion doesn't glow in their brains. And I kind of thought that, you know, with the whole thing being, you don't have to be happy all the time, I kind of thought she would lose that glow. But she didn't. She still, like, whatever. I never got it. But the other thing I really liked about the effects were the hair. The way the hair was all shiny and sparkly, like, almost looked metallic-y. And I just, like, it's such a simple thing, but I loved it. And I loved, especially, like, Disgust had these long eyelashes that just, like, fluttered when she blinked. And so it was some very cool effects. The voice acting, it was fine. Amy Poehler was Joy, and she did fine. I think it's Phyllis Smith, forgive me if I got that wrong, as Sadness, but I loved her performance. It just had so much heart and so much emotion to it that I probably connected to her performance more than any other. But all the other emotions were fun. They were really funny and really charming to listen to. Like Lewis Black is anger, and Mindy Kaling, I think, was Disgust, and she did the racer in Wreck-It Ralph. I love Wreck-It Ralph, and now I can't remember the rival racer's name, and it's killing me. But she was fantastic as Disgust. You know, she had that kind of preppy, sweet, but still not too preppy that it becomes like, oh, she's just there to be annoying. And I totally lost my train of thought. Fear. I can't remember who did Fear, but like, he was great. There's a whole scene where he's watching, like, he's on Dream Patrol and he's watching Riley's dream, and he's like, oh, we're on our first day of school, and never seen a dream like this before, and there were moments in that movie that were really funny, and that was probably the scene that I laughed at the most, just because Fear gave such a great performance there. But speaking of voice acting, I wanted to mention one more thing. Oddly enough, the one that stole the show for me was Richard Kind as Bing Bong, the imaginary friend, and he had been in Pixar films before. He was in Cars, and he was Molt, the brother Grasshopper in A Bug's Life, and I loved him in A Bug's Life. But I think this is the best use of his talents in a Pixar movie so far. It just, like, he fit the character so much. This oddness, but still a warmth and a charm. Is like he was perfect, just perfect for this character. Fantastic casting. It was just fantastic. I love it. I love it so much when a voice actor and a character, that just align like that. John Ratzenberger came in at the very end. He was like, I don't know what they were. They were like little jelly beans, and they were just workers throughout the brain. I don't know what they were supposed to be, but just faceless. Their identity is not important. They're just workers in the brain. So yeah, he plays a little worker person being, I think, at the very end. But they come in and they give the emotions a new control panel, which I loved. Like, this is going back to the kind of things I was saying, where, like, it's very metaphorical of, like, okay, so as a kid, Riley had this very small control panel in her brain, and all the emotions were competing over it all the time, and she couldn't express two emotions at once. So at the very end of the movie, she gets this fancy new, big control panel where all of the emotions have their own console, and so they no longer have to fight over space. They can all have an input in Riley's brain, and I love that idea of, like, learning to embrace all of your emotions and working together in harmony. So a fantastic note to end the film on. And so yeah, definitely if you go to see the movie, stick around for the end credits because they do some clever things with that. I guess, definitely not one of Pixar's better endeavors. Certainly not one of their worst. I'd probably put it somewhere around Cars and A Bug's Life, where, it wasn't a failure like Cars 2, and it didn't have these story problems that Brave did, but it's definitely not a wow, like, look at this endeavor from Pixar. Definitely more of a children's movie than even a family film. And for that reason, because the story is not as strong as it could have been, and even the characters were not, they're emotions. What can you really say about them in terms of character? I would give it a rating. I would give it 2 stars out of 4. It was definitely a fun time. If you have kids, definitely take them to see the movie. If you are an animation nerd, definitely check it out. It's Pixar as always. But other than that, it's probably one that it's not like a must see Pixar film. But overall, some nice ideas about emotions, and definitely about learning to grow up and learning that it's okay to experience negative emotion. So yeah, cute film. Check it out if you're interested, if you're curious. And thank you for watching my review, and I will see you next time. Take care.